Neal,
Present.
Gauntz,
Yes, ma'am.
Kirkpatrick,
Yes, ma'am.
Lowry, Marion,
Yes, ma'am.
Neal, Norris,
Here.
Trigg, Witcher.
I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. First thing we need to do is to approve our agenda. You received it on Thursday afternoon, and you looked over it, and I would entertain a motion that we go by the agenda that you were presented tonight.
Motion, Kirkpatrick.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Neal. Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. The agenda has been approved, and the first thing on the agenda is to approve the minutes of our council meeting we had back on May the 8th, which you have had in your possession. If you have looked at those, and I would entertain a motion that we approve those minutes as presented.
Motion, Norris.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Banana.
Okay, anybody want to discuss those minutes as they were presented? If not, all in favor of approving them indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. All right, the minutes are approved. We just really enjoy these reports that we've been having from the different departments here in the city, and we have 3 on our agenda for tonight. And the first one we have on the agenda is our Joint City-County Planning Commission, and Kevin Myatt is going to come forward and bring us up to date on a whole lot of things that have been going on in planning and zoning. Kevin, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all city council members for allowing me to be here. Got a couple things there in front of you. Just kind of give you a little background on what's transpired over the last 5 years. But just a quick brief history lesson here. The Planning Commission is a joint city-county planning commission, which is made up of this body, the fiscal court, Cave City, and Park City. We are your legislative arm to hold those public hearings in regards to zone changes, text amendments, things of that nature when we bring it to you all. The Planning Commission was created in 1972, and then we had subdivision regulations in 1978. With that being said, the zoning ordinance for the city of Glasgow has been around since December the 22nd of 1949. So it's not a new document. It's been around for quite a long time. But once the Planning Commission became its entity, we took over possession of enforcing that ordinance for you all, as we do for Cave City and Park City. So just a brief history lesson on who we are. To give you an idea on our plat reviews, and this is just plat reviews, this does not include development plans, variances, or anything like that. This is just single plats that we see every day. Kind of gives you an idea of where we are. You will notice that the major subdivisions have gone up since 2020, and you'll notice in your zone change applications, we only had 1 in 2020, and that was a very strong product of the COVID year that we had there with the pandemic and whatnot. So that resulted in a lot of people just staying at home, which is what we were required to do. Since then, we've seen tremendous growth. The more zone changes you have, the more that it seems like you're going to have development, you're going to have individuals that's interested in those things that take place in the city, creating, developments, housing developments, commercial developments, industrial developments. Those things transpire. You see every one of those. We are a recommendation, or recommending body to you all for final action. We hold your public hearing. We take all the input of that. We make that decision based on what the actual ordinance says, coupled with the comprehensive plan, and then what the state law requires us to hear and not hear. So that when it's presented to you, we've held those trial type hearings, the raise your right hand, tell the truth, nothing but the truth type meetings, so that all the testimony and all due diligence has been done, due process has been given. So when it arrives at you, we hope that it is the best educated decision that can be made for that area. And the Planning Commission is required to take everything into consideration. Population growth, infrastructure growth, whether it's there, whether it's not, roadway capacities, and then just the general comments that the public might have. We're required to take that in. I'm the staff of the Planning Commission, so I facilitate the meeting. I don't have a vote on that board. Tommy Gum is the chairman of that board. It's a 13-person panel, 5 members from Glasgow, 5 members from Barron County, 2 from Cave City, and 1 from Park City as the representation, and that's based on your census data. So to dive into your numbers here a little bit, as I said, you can see since 2020, the numbers have steadily increased with regards to major subdivisions and the lots, minor subdivision plats. Now, that is, you got to take that into consideration, the minor subdivision plats, that's just 5 tracts or less. Usually we see farm divisions or a single conveyance lot, somebody selling a lot to someone else. Those numbers can vary kind of wildly throughout the year. But typically, you can see we typically average around 340, 335 lots a year just in minor subdivisions. That doesn't count the 183 lots that we review for major subdivisions. Those major subdivisions require a little bit more detail for our plats. We require to see how the roadway is going to be constructed. If there's a new roadway, it has to be designed by an engineer. Whether it's going to have curb and gutter, how that's designed, and the drainage runoff, and those coefficients have to be presented on those major subdivisions as well. So there's a considerable amount of info that's on those major subdivisions, and those, when we present, or when they're presented to us, they have to meet just the very basic state law requirements of that. That shows your lots, your lot widths. Some things that people don't realize is now the post office is requiring what's called cluster boxes. You're not going to get an individual mailbox in a major subdivision. They're not going to put that out there. You're going to be required as a developer to put in a cluster box unit, which is everyone's mailbox in one centralized location. What does that do for stacking on vehicles in that subdivision? You know, you can put it on there, but if you put it too close to the intersection of another roadway, you're going to have individuals that's waiting to try to get their mail and possibly be setting out into that road infrastructure. So those are just little things, little nuances that we have to look at. We have to help that developer put and position that type of thing in an area where it's convenient for everyone. It doesn't cause disruption. Safety is still a major concern for those things, because you've got school buses that will go down that roadway, garbage trucks that go down that roadway. They don't have to stop there. So little things like that we have to take in consideration. With that being said, we're required to update a comprehensive plan, and it is, as the name states, it's comprehensive. It takes all things into consideration, and we're required by state law to do that at a minimum of every 10 years. We do it every 5 years because, a decade's just too long for your community. You look at 10 years ago where we were in 2013. It's considerably different than we are today. The economic outlook, considerably different. The residential development outlook, considerably different. Commercial, same thing. So we're required to take in all things, everything from workforce numbers to our education patterns to our health statistics, all things across the board. It is, as it says, a comprehensive review. And the one thing that the comprehensive plan does really well is it tells you what you are really good at, and it tells you what you are not good at. So it gives you your deficiencies, and those are good things because you want to know what you're not good at in order to bring those up to snuff. We may look for one map, for example, we're working on today was our collision map that's given by the state police. They set every collision that's taken place by latitude and longitude. So we know where every single crash has happened in the entire county. What kind of data does that give us? Well, it gives us an idea of what road infrastructure is good, what's not. Is there an intersection that's had a lot of crashes? Why is that? Is it because there's sight distance problems? Is the red light not working correctly? Is there speeding that's through there? So it gives us an idea to be able to present that to you all, present that to the police department, the fire department, and the street department of what do we need to do in this area. That's just one little snippet of what the plan or what the comprehensive plan can do for you. We are in the process of updating that. That comprehensive plan is required to be updated by December of 2024. We're getting ready to start our public meetings, public involvement, and this is where the public comes and tells us this is what we want to see. Do we want a new historic district? Do we want to see this road infrastructure needs to be wide? We can put recommendations into it. This plan is a recommendation type plan. It gives you the ability to apply for grants. It kind of weights it a little bit heavier when you apply for those things because it's already wrote in there, and you all are looking to the future of this is what we need to do better. It will help schools. They see what they're deficient at, which they may already know. They may have a lot of that data together, but are we missing post-secondary education requirements here? it'll give you that kind of info. Well, then that potentially gives a developer an idea or a school system an idea to want to locate and expand what their offerings are. WKU, SkyCTCS, those type of individuals will take a look at this plan. So we're starting that process over the next few weeks. We're going to start sending out notices for public involvement, public meetings, and this is just a come, see what is presented, see what we have, what we are at right now, where do we need to go to. The next thing that we're going to work on, and it's going to be a next 3 to 5 month process, is the Glasgow zoning ordinance, the review of it. There are things that's transpiring that we rewrote it in 2018. That's 5 years ago. We need to update it. Was just at a conference a few days ago. One of the things I've never even thought about, it's popping up more so in your very, very metropolitan areas like Chicago, New York, but that's zoning classifications for drones and drone deliveries. Where you got high rises and they're delivering them on their balconies, the invasion of privacy. That's pretty far off from us, I understand that, but that's something that I've never even thought of. It's not something that we typically see here. Some of the other things we're going to have to talk about that is short-term rentals. They're popping up left and right. We try to regulate them as best we can. Not everyone's happy about it. Not everybody's going to be happy about it. But those are some of the instances and some of the things that we have to discuss. We have to get the gray area out of our zoning ordinance as best we can, but also at least leave it viable for someone to make a living without having so much regulation on them. You've got to find that happy medium there where it's going to meet for everyone. And how can we do that? So we're going to start holding those public meetings, and I don't mean to put it in on you impromptu here, Mayor, but there's 3 members from the Planning Commission that's been appointed by Tommy Gum, and if it would be up to you, or if it would be your will there, we'd like to have at least a couple representatives from this body that could serve on those. It's a 3 to 4 month process. Once a month, we're going to have public meetings and to discuss and have those meetings for the next 3 to 4 months before we have a public hearing for a text amendment, of which then, if that is approved, it will be presented to you for final approval. It's recommended to you that the Planning Commission sees these are the issues that's transpiring with the Board of Adjustments. These variances are being asked. Why do we have the same amount or same number of variances on the same thing transpiring? Do we need to take a look at that and maybe lessen that because everybody's asking for the same thing and it's a product that, it's really hindering growth? Then how do we make that better going forward, So those recommendations will be brought to you for your approval or disapproval, however you may see fit. So that's a very quick rundown that I have for our office. I did include the development plan stuff on here. That's a little bit more targeted. It's a little bit harder to quantify because, someone can submit a development plan, might be 8 months before they actually build anything. And that development plan can be null and void after 2 years. With today's shipments and the products of those things that's happening where it's difficult to get supplies, we're just at that mercy. So I didn't include those numbers, and my phone is always open. You guys can call me. You guys know that. At any time, email me, call me, or come into the office there, and we can go over any of that stuff that you might want to. So,
Since this is our annual report, I know that Kevin would be more than happy to answer any questions that any of our council members might want to ask of Kevin in the various hats that he wears. Kevin?
Sure.
Kevin, one question about residential development. What are you hearing from builders relating to residential development? And with that, retail development, like mixed use?
Yeah, so that's 2 big topics. One, it's an explosion. There's no other way to put it. The conference I was at just a couple days ago, it's the Kentucky chapter of the American Planning Association conference. It was held here at Barren River. A lot of planners across the state came here, even from Tennessee, came up, visited the area, had a great conference there. But 2 things that was very evident from that is the population growth that's going to take place. I'm not here to sugarcoat it for you. Growth is coming. And we can either be on the forefront of it, get our infrastructure in, get our roadways the way they need to be, or we can be behind and trying to catch up. The region that's transpiring here, we all know that to the north, and we know that to the west of us that's transpiring there. What does that do for us? first and foremost, residential growth is going to happen here. It just is, because the type of growth that's transpiring to the north of us from residential standpoint, the price point it's gotten extremely high. Individuals are willing to take that. I'll drive 45 minutes to get somewhere to work and take $100,000 off building my house. They're looking at those things. Talking with E-Town's building inspector, the last 5 years, to give you an idea, the last 5 years, they averaged about 135 to 150 single-family homes. From July 1, which is our fiscal year, to the end of April, and the report that he gave at the presentation he gave Friday, they've done 1,162 homes in 10 months. And we understand that, but majority of those homes were not for people that were living there. I'm going to come to E-Town and work. It was for just the construction workers that are living there. The primary, most of those structures were built just for the men and women that's working at those factories that they're building beside I-65. The other thing that you're going to see is that of potential of RV parks. It's just a product of in nature of what's going on. Individual might not be able to afford the prototypical starter home now that's increased all the way up to getting closer to 200 grand, but they might be able to afford that RV that costs them 35 to 50 grand in an RV park. Those things are transpiring. We have it wrote in the zoning ordinance, but it's how lax do we want to be, or how aggressive do we want to be on that? That's really transpiring more so out in the county than it is right now in the city. But you've got individuals that are renting out all RV parks and then driving to these construction sites to work. That's typical what you see in those type of environments. So the second part of your question here is always been for me is coupled with the first part. There's this thinking out there that you have to have a chicken or an egg kind of thing. If we build the industry, the people will come, or if the people here, the industry will come. There's no chicken and egg. If people are here, industry, commercial development is going to come just because of the influx of people. Individuals know I can perform a product or a service, and I'm going to have people that's going to come and buy it. The same, the industry is going to know that too. You've got a larger workforce now. Potential having those individuals to come, and the closer they are, the better it is. So from a residential standpoint, it's going to grow substantially. I think, and what we have seen from that, just from that alone, knowing that that's coming, your commercial and your industrial growth will come as well. Spoke with Ms. Carpenter there with Barron Inc., Maureen, and she's fully aware of what's transpiring there. And she's on board. The more individuals that you can get, families that you can get to locate here, the more our workforce is going to be. The more availability we're going to have for those individuals that want to develop a commercial nightlife or something to that effect. They're going to locate here because they see the product, they see the individuals here. So in the next 3 to 4 years, it's going to be extremely high growth. It just is. I'm just telling y'all now, there's no way around it. You're welcome.
I have one question, and I may or may not. If I heard you right, the extensive plan that you're doing is every 5 years?
Yeah, the comprehensive plan, yes, sir.
Is that frequently enough, or do you do a rolling every year with?
Right. We try to update it. We try to update sections of it as we go per year. The main thing that has to be approved is your goals and objectives. That's a public hearing. You got to have, where are we? Where do we want to get to with our goals and objectives? Okay. That's your bare minimum. It's got to be public hearing and approved and sent to you all and sent to the fiscal court. Not only you all, but every county that's adjacent to it, I have to send it to them as well. So we try to update the numbers every year as best we can. The census has just been released, so those numbers have just started coming out and getting compiled. So we're starting to get all those numbers in now. So it gives us a good idea of where our population is, how our age of our population is transpiring here. That's another thing that we've got to realize. Our population is aging. We've got a whole slew of those. I don't want to call it not necessarily nursing homes. I don't mean it in that way, but and not even assisted living facilities. More of that independent living, but it's tailored towards seniors, and that's a product of, they may not want to go into, whether it's, financially or physically, they may not want to go into a assisted living facility. They still want to live independent, but they don't need a 1,800 to 2,500 square foot house to take care of on a half a lot. They like their 800 square foot apartment that gets them right there beside other individuals. They can get in and out, which then also frees up our availability of our residential stock that's there too, right? So, but to answer your question, yeah, we do try to update it at least once a year, portions of it that we can. You're welcome.
Kevin, thanks for your presentation. You said that the growth we're going to see a lot in the next 3 to 4 to 5 years. Do you see that more of like from a young person standpoint, or is it more from people wanting to move to this area because, like you said, it's cheaper and people are retiring here, or
Right.
what?
I think what you're primarily going to see, not those individuals that's just graduated of college, or a higher education there to get out to come right here. You're going to see a lot of those individuals that's maybe making, mid-career changes, that they can work at maybe a factory or an industry that's just outside of our county, but want to live here at a slower pace, that still has the same amenities for their family. You're going to see a lot of those between that 30 to 45 year age population. We're going to see that kind of growth tremendously. Or at least that's what the census data is really telling us, and those things. Having said that, though, the more individuals, the more families you get to locate here, the more things that are offered, whether it's, with the rec department, Entertain Glasgow, offering those type of venues that we have, those people are going to want to come as well. It's not just reciprocal, it affects all array of everything that's going on, okay? So we will have growth in that younger age. We will still have growth there. They're not going to just leave to be leaving, but once we get those individuals that start locating here, you're going to start seeing that commercial development, that industrial development transpire. Then you're going to start seeing some of those younger individuals that want to locate here too. Now, that process is more of a 5 to 10 year outlook for us. That's what we're basically coming up with right now. Yep. You're welcome.
Any other questions for Kevin? Good discussion. I really like the back and forth discussion because I think it's easy to see that we have a very good planning and zoning department that's right on top of the growth and going to be prepared as the growth hits us, and we appreciate your presentation. And by the way, I have appointed to your committee for the reviewing of the codes, Councilman Joe Trigg and Councilman Chastity Lowry have agreed to serve on this ad hoc committee to work with you. If you will get with them, and you'll be able to contact them whenever the meetings that you have are going to come forward.
Absolutely. And it's open to the public, so
Right.
they may be voting members on it, but anybody that wants to attend is more than welcome to it. We'll put those notices out as well.
Very good. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate your time.
Thank you all.
Good report. All right, we have a lot of gems in this community for sure, but certainly one of the gems we're proud of is the Plaza Theater. And I'm going to call on our director of the Plaza Theater, Mrs. Carolyn Godfelter, to come forward and just to kind of give us a report, a review of what's going on at the Plaza Theater. Carolyn?
Well, thank you very much for having me. One of the things we do at the beginning of every budget year starting in July is our membership. I know we have quite a few people in the room that are members. What this is we have currently this past year's membership, which runs July 1st through June 30th. We have 79 members, and that equates to 213 seats in the Plaza Theater. It's a one-time $25 per seat fee, and they get the ability to get pre-notifications on any of our events that are coming up, and they get the ability to purchase their tickets prior to them going on sale to the public. And on some occasions, they also get to have early access to the theater, depending on what kind of event it is. This year's new members and renewal of memberships will begin July 3rd and runs through the entire month of July till July 31st. This past budget, we hosted 39 events. 5 of those were plaza-sponsored events. That's where we paid for and contracted the artists. We had 9 school day events. A lot of people don't realize that we do events for schools in the communities and school districts throughout the year. That kind of, they're non-ticketed, so it's not very obvious, but we served over 2,500 students this past year. I think half of those were in the last month, but which was really busy. We had 25 rental events. The rentals include nonprofit organizations who use their events as major fundraising for their year. Miss Bobby, the Bobby Driver Scholarship event is one of those, kind of things that year after year, that's their big #1 fundraiser for their community. Far Broadway Players and Soma, Miss Adrian's Dance Studio all run multi-day events, so they're looking at full weekends that they run 2 or 3 times a year. Many of the nonprofit and dance studios have been utilizing the Plaza Theater. Some people don't realize that they have been there since they reopened in 2005. I believe Miss Adrian's, Far Off Broadway Players, even maybe All About Dance have been using their event every year consistently for 10 or more years. So it's pretty awesome that they trust us and support us and allow us to host their events year after year, and they're all on the schedule for next year as well. The remainder of our events is we work with a lot of professional promoters. These are people who have artist rosters that they want to bring, or they're routing their artists through our area. So rather than us booking them, they will actually rent the theater and bring their artists in. This past year, I think we had like maybe 6 professional renters, and they're a variety. They come from all over. They're out of Tennessee, out of Atlanta, out of different parts of Kentucky, Ohio, and they bring their artists to us, so that saves us, that fills our calendars, but it also gives us an opportunity to bring different artists to the theater and to Glasgow. Looking ahead into the next budget year, 23-24, we already have 25 events on the book scheduled, running from July to June of next year, and that's just with our repeaters and things that we have personally have contracted and that other renters have contracted, including some new professional renters that we've been in contact with. We've also had to date, as of today, 19,034 people attend the Plaza Theater.
Wow.
From all over the country, and we literally are going from shore to shore. We have California and Washington to Massachusetts to Michigan to Florida and everything in between. So that doesn't even include everybody from Kentucky. So we went up from the previous year's visitors of 15,000 to the 19, and we still have 3 more events. We have Soma's event, the Alice in Wonderland this weekend, and then Henry Cho and the Oldies event coming up. So we have 3 more events. So this is we're gonna exceed the 20,000 mark, and I'm really excited because we hadn't been there for a few years pre-COVID, and I think we're really getting all our out-of-state visitors back to our area and visiting us and attending events at the Plaza Theater. The building, the building is 90 years old next year. So we are currently planning an August 2024 huge celebration. We all have ideas, so we're just stay tuned until we can narrow some things down. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll see what we come up with for our 90th year anniversary. We also been working with Dennis, he's a godsend, on our heating and cooling units, repairing and cleaning the inside units. And when we get a lot of patrons in the plaza, it gets the humidity goes up, and so we've been working on cleaning some of our interior units and getting those up to date, so that way it's been eliminating a lot of humidity issues. Because we've had so many events that are kind of like get everybody in the building and then wait till the event is over, I started repainting the stars in front of the building. If you ever come by and you see people dedicated the stars of all different sizes, those are still for sale. If anybody wants to buy one for the 90th anniversary, just get a hold of me. But they've washed away, so you can't read a lot of them anymore, especially like on the main walking path. So we started repainting those and clear coating them with a rubber coating, because if you ever walked on those when it rains, it's very slick because of the way they're made. So far it's been good. I've got 3 rows done, I think, and people have started to comment. You see people staring down at the sidewalk as they're walking by, so hopefully we'll have those all done this summer, so that way they're all nice and redone and pretty and protected. We're very excited, thank you, Ms. Lowry, for putting in the wheelchair accessible crosswalk in front of the theater that was put in last September. It's been a huge success, and people are very grateful for it. We do need to probably get with the state about remarking the white markings on the street, because that is worn off from traffic. The one thing that I'm going to put on my future list is the marquee itself. The marquee itself, I do not believe, and anybody can correct me, that I don't think that was in the original renovation in 2005. It might have been looked at and touched up, but we have the marquee roof itself, which is the yellow part with the wording. There's a roof there that the roof needed to be repaired because it holds water, and then it's been dripping down on the poster boards out front, and it's also kind of starting to ruin a little bit of the corner and underneath. So we have that on schedule to be repaired, but some of the bulb sockets are broken. They're missing, so no matter how many times you replace the light bulbs, there's nothing to replace them with. There's no socket to screw a light bulb into, and a lot of them just need to be repaired. I feel like that's a big thing that's going to have to be really looked at with some kind of grant or fundraising or something, because in my opinion, I've looked up other theaters who had to save the marquee kind of fundraising event, and it's fairly expensive to do that. But I think it is something that we need to look at for the future, that is the shining star, that's what people see, that's the Main Street thing, and if we just let it go and not take a serious look at it, then we might not have it. And also the pattern, the bulb flashing pattern at the very top, that is run by a 105-year-old machine. That, if anybody didn't know that, it's called a Rico flasher. And we oil it, we baby it, but we also don't turn it on unless it's necessary. So if anybody says, can you put the marquee on and we don't have an event, the answer is going to be no. It's 105 years old. So I think it would be fun if there's any college or high school student out there that has some kind of electrical, tinkering, or some computer plus electronic who wants to come over and look at our machine and see if they can't come up with a new fun way to replace it or have a backup in case it ever decides. I hope it doesn't. Excuse me, I'm not going to. That would be a kind of a fun kind of design, like just a kind of a design contest, especially with 90 years next year, to be able to have something that'll last another 105 years. It's kind of a fun little machine if you ever want to come take a look at it. I also want to thank our volunteers who go above and beyond, not just during events, but all days leading up to the event. They call, they run around, they email, they question, what do you need? Do you need help here? Do you need help there? They're always there for me all the time, as well as my 2 staff members, the advisory board, and everyone who supports the event or supports the plaza by attending events, whether they're big events or small events. We're always happy to see you there and coming out to volunteer or show, your support, buying a ticket to the many different events that we have. And I thank you very much for your time.
Any questions for Carolyn about the plaza, things going on, things that might be coming up?
One question I have is, have you ever sat down and looked at the economic impact the plaza has? And what I'm talking about there is the multiplier effect on other parts of Glasgow, whether it be the hotels, the restaurants, anything like that.
I have, and we have been slammed since mid-April, and typically you would be inundated with pie charts of information that I will be happy to give you. But we do different surveys. We keep track of who's coming from where and how many days are they staying, where did they visit, did they eat out, how far did they travel, did they buy gas, did they visit shops. So we usually do a survey after every single show, and then we keep that information and put it into pie chart, which is my favorite thing. So, but I don't have them tonight for you.
Do you have any estimate I mean, right now, what that would be?
We
an
do
annual basis?
find, just in like a general, without looking at it, or the information, is we do find that when people come in, they will typically come in the day before, or they will actually stay for an extra day the day after. They will stay at a bed and breakfast, they will stay at the hotels, they will walk around, town, they'll utilize different, different entertainment in the area, or different venues or things to see. So they do go around and spend some time. One note is that I was personally on vacation and met a couple from Tennessee, and we invited them to come to Glasgow to see a show, and now they come up for every show our Broadway Players has. They come extra days. Now, they started with one night, now they're up to like 3. They told us, don't tell anybody about Glasgow, because it's their new favorite place, and they don't want it to be inundated with too many people, even though we say, no, we want everybody to come. And so now they're visiting like 3, 4, 5 times a year, versus just the one time we invited them to come up on a vacation where we happen to miss. So those are the people that, we love to see and hear from, and get them to keep coming back, more and more people. So, and we have a lot of those repeaters.
I think it's just important for people to understand that the Plaza Theater is far-reaching. It's not just coming to the show and going home. There's a lot of activity that happens with it.
It is very far-reaching. I mean, if you want me to read the 25 states.
That's all right. But from an economic standpoint,
From an
it adds
economic,
revenue.
25 different states that does not include Kentucky, they're staying and eating and shopping somewhere.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, so.
Carolyn, with a 105-year-old, that's pretty impressive. What do new theaters do? I mean, is there new technology out that runs the marquees? Is that an option? I like the idea about getting the college kids, and then being 90 years old. I mean, what do you need from us facility-wise?
I would say, I've done some research. Now, I haven't called the theaters to say, like, okay, when you updated, what did you update to get an example of what are you using other than a 105-year-old machine to run the flashing lights on your marquee. I do know that most and all of the marquees have come down and gone into a shop for months or years, or a year, like up to a year, to totally be re-renovated, rewired. So I believe that is the start of a new system, is that you have the shell of the stand and the marquee, the top portion, and then all the new stuff running through it is what's the new equipment that's going to come out at the end for running it. Ours is original.
Other than the marquee, is there anything else? Are you pretty good on structural stuff, or is there any other big?
Well, we have one back emergency exit off the office that is a little scary, but we've talked to the state about it. We've talked to locally about it. It's an engineering architecture because of the old fire escape coming off the theater and another fire escape butting up against it, and so that whole back thing needs to be redone to the point where I don't have the ability to hire an engineer to come in and say, or whatever, or a structural engineer and an architect is what they told, the state recommended. So that seems to be a little much for a corner. Thanks.
All right, any other discussion? Very good report and good discussion. Carolyn she has a very fascinating job. She has to do everything over there, and she does it well. But I would echo, you have some mighty dedicated volunteers that help you out over there too. And the plaza is kind of, in an interesting way, it's kind of the face of Glasgow to a whole lot of people who maybe were only been here for an event at the plaza. There are a lot of people who are introduced, like you said, to the people at Glasgow, and I can't tell you how many people in the last month or so have been on the phone. They say, I can't believe Henry Cho is coming to Glasgow. That's a big draw for people that a guy that big is coming to Glasgow. So thank you very much, and we're looking forward to seeing the growth and the community involvement. And I do think it's neat, too, that these youngsters come down for graduation of kindergarten, things of that nature, and they get to come to the same type of facility that big entertainers come to as well. And I know it makes it for a special graduation for a lot of these that you all have been hosting up there, for sure. So thank you for that. All right. That's the plaza. Now, we have our third report, and this is from Code Enforcement, which is it's a very intriguing operation in the city, and we are certainly tickled to have somebody that does the code enforcement job here, that she has to take a whole lot of griping, she has to hand out a few compliments, she has to do things that are probably not all that pleasant to do, but her name is Cheryl Pena. She does a good job, and she's got unless she's about to condemn an overhead projector. Yeah, so, but we're going to, I'm going to let her get her projector operating, and we'll hear about code enforcement. It is a really fascinating part of the city, and a lot of things wind up being referred to her, going through her, as far as important, keeping the city looking better, stopping people from ignoring things that need to be done around their home, things of that nature. Eddie's the fastest guy I've ever seen turn this machine on. Do you need him? Okay, all right. Okay, thank you, Eddie. That was easy. He didn't even have to move. Okay, Cheryl Pena.
Hello, I'm going to wait just a second for the lights to
Okay, all right.
brighter. Thank you. So I'm Cheryl Pena. I'm your code enforcement officer. This is my review from May 19th of last year to this year. So what is code enforcement? It protects the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens by preventing blight in our neighborhoods, and it makes Glasgow a great place to raise families and work productively. The objective is to get compliance by exposing violations like substandard structures, improper storage, and overgrown grass, to name a few. These things are a threat to the quality of our neighborhoods. What is a complaint? Of course, we have high grass, buildings that either need to be destroyed, or sheds that are put in without permits, open storage, of course, our wonderful tires, and dilapidated housing. We've had 8 demolitions this year. This is over on Highland. We had to go to court and get paperwork so that we could get that tore down, and it'll be going to foreclosure really soon. And that's the after. This is another house. It was on Bowen. This here is an example of what code enforcement can do for our city. This was a house that you can't hardly see it. There's a red sticker in the door. I had to condemn it because this is what the back of it looked like. It had burnt. Owners were trying to sell it. Didn't want to do anything with it. We finally got that knocked down, and we had new developers come in and want to put houses like this in. That's on Humble.
Wow.
So what they've done is they've gotten rid of something that didn't need to be there anymore, brought it in, something new, have just sold it. The tax base has gone up. The quality of the neighborhood's going up. This is, everybody heard about this last year. We got tires and mosquitoes gone from behind B&R Tire. The process of code enforcement. Citizens will call us with complaints. An officer goes out, verifies that there is a valid complaint, makes contact, leaves a door hanger or a brochure. Then they'll go back and re-inspect it. If it's fixed, that's great. If not, then they'll start with notices and citations. Citations can be appealed to our board. We have a 5-member board. We meet once a month, that if anybody wants to appeal their citation, they come and bring that before our board, and they decide instead of going to our court system and clogging up the court system. Also, nuisances can be abated, and we can file liens against the property. The end results, we enjoy a healthy and better quality neighborhoods. For this past year, I've had a total of 512 cases. 418, I've closed 10 today, so 418 is closed, still 94 active. With those cases, it takes many times sometimes to go back. You might go to inspect it the first time, you go back and inspect it the second time, and if it's done, that's done 2 activities. Some of them take longer than that, and 4 or 5 trips. Out of the 512, I've written letters to 302 of them. Out of those 302, 88 got citations because they refused to do anything. And then we've had 9 demolitions this year. Who makes the complaint? I keep getting asked that. 47% is your neighbor. Now, why 53% is the officer is because once I go to that neighborhood and see a complaint, and I turn around and look, and there's 3 other complaints in the neighborhood, they want to know why I'm fussing at them and not everybody else in the neighborhood. So I'll have to go 2 or 3 other houses in the same neighborhood for other issues. Open storage, grass, that kind of thing. Who's responsible for these violations? 92 out of 512 was owner occupied. 204 was renters. So that's a 58% of my cases were occupied houses. Businesses only was 7%, and then vacant houses and vacant lots were 35%. There are a lot of vacant houses and vacant lots in Glasgow. Citations and fines that have been paid this year due to sale of a property or receiving a citation. Services were like mowing and cleanup. People have paid $3,350 for those. If there's been a lien on the property for 8 years and it's gotten sold, it's getting a title check, and they find these liens on it, and they have to pay these liens off. There's also lien fees, and that was $2,176. $3,250 in citations. Interest was $1,532. Last year we had a rehabilitated property sold. That was one that we got possession of. We knocked it down, cleaned the property up, and then we sold the lot. So total it brought in $14,458. We've not had any demos that we've had to pay for this year. My repetitive mowing, I call my zombie houses. There started out 12, and now I've got 15 for $4,590. It's houses where people have died and they've moved away, their heirs have moved away. Some of them are 80 years ago, and I have to do the paperwork to find who they might belong to and see what we can do to get them foreclosed on so that we can do the same thing as that other house was done. We can clean it up, put it back on the market, let somebody put a new house on it, and up our tax base. So I've also cleaned up, boarded, brush removal, stuff like that for 8 properties at $2,200. So code enforcement is definitely better for our city. We get things like this. So I feel like 50% of my cases are resolved by them responding to a door hanger or a brochure, because not all my cases, if they're resolved that way, not all of them get put in the program. So I feel like 50% are resolved just by a door hanger. Our ordinances have been adopted by the City Council to promote health and safety. They protect the community from blight and enhance the livability of our city. I want to thank you all for your commitment to make Glasgow a better place to live. We couldn't do it without your support.
Very good. Does anybody have a question from Cheryl's report or anything you'd like to ask Cheryl? Code enforcement is a very broad sort of a undertaking, and she really knows her stuff. She knows these ordinances. I know that she would be glad to have questions from anybody that might want to ask.
Sure, I'd just like to say we appreciate the work you do because it does clean up the community, makes it look better for everyone. I know it's a tough job, and you get questions not only from the citizens, you get questions from us from time to time, and we appreciate you working with us and the job you're doing. Thank you.
Our office is right here in the building, and the pictures of these houses almost cover the whole walls.
That's right.
So good job.
Thank you.
You do a great job. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Other comments for Cheryl? Well, of course, I keep up with a lot of these things because we get a lot of telephone calls downstairs in the mayor's office about, well, if Cheryl leaves somebody a hanger or a violation or something like that, the first thing they want to do is they want to call the mayor's office. And my response generally is always, what she is she's just doing her job, because it's probably not something that you really want to get something hung on your door, but what Cheryl does is she does her job because of the fact that the need is there, and it really is making a difference with all these hanging on the wall in her office, and then you can kind of see the monies that are being brought in by cleaning these places up, and I really appreciate the job that you're doing. And I'm saying that each day is different, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Cheryl. All right.
Y'all are letting me go. That's awesome.
Good reports. You got to sit here and really be appreciative of the work that these three that have given us reports do each and every day in behalf of the city. And you can tell there's a whole lot of things that need to be done that are getting done. And I really appreciate each report here tonight. We don't have any old business on the agenda for tonight. Let's move to new business. Attorney Alexander, we have a need to go into closed session. So what I want to do is I want to entertain a motion, if one of the members of the council would do so, for us to go into closed session pursuant to KRS 61.8101C, discussion of pending litigation.
I'll make a motion that we go into closed session.
Okay, Councilman Kirkpatrick makes that motion. Is there a second?
Second by Marion.
Okay, second by Marion. Any discussion before we go into closed session? Okay, all in favor of doing so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign, and we will return momentarily. right, the time is 7:19, and I will entertain a motion that we come back into open session.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Councilman Kirkpatrick, is there a second? Second by Councilman Witcher. All in favor of coming back into open session indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Now, as a result of our closed session, is there any action to be taken?
Mayor Royce, I move that in the case of Barbara England versus the City of Glasgow, that City Attorney Rich Alexander be authorized to enter into negotiations to settle the claim within the ranges discussed in closed session.
Okay, you have heard a motion made by Councilman Bonnell. Is there a second to that motion?
Second by Marion.
Okay, all right. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so we're back in open session, and according to my agenda here, the only announcement we have is the fact that City Hall is going to be closed on Monday, May the 29th, in observance of Memorial Day, and we'll get back together on June the 12th. All right?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second to that? Okay, any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign? Okay, very good. Thank you all very much.
Hey, fire department, peace.